Hey there, guys. It's Veronica. I'm back, and if you're new to my channel, what I do here is I give tailored tips and strategies to help single parents that have endured trauma and/or incarceration. As we know, many times dealing with different trauma, it sometimes leads to incarceration, substance abuses, and so on. So I'm here to help those single parents that are dealing with different things along those lines, but giving you some solid tools to help you navigate your journey. And you can do it, although I must admit, I think single parenting is probably the hardest job in the world, but you can do it by building your community and continuing to build upon your community because it does take a village. So, on that note, I want to get right into something that is at the forefront for many single parents, and that's the ever changing current situation here in America with our government and policies and so on. And for many of us, there is not much that we can do but create strategies for ourselves to better ourselves, to be better equipped to navigate the ever changing environment. So, on that note, I want to get into how to help single parents increase income and reduce expenses, because that is usually, I would say, a day by day situation for many single parents. I don't want to count the pockets of anybody, but usually many single parents are constantly juggling income and expenses, and it seems like the expenses are always increasing from some level of some sort, whether that's, care for children, whether that's legal fees, therapies, and so on, especially if you are dealing with the court systems as far as like child support and divorce and so on. Those particular arenas seem to always come bearing unwelcomed financial gifts or financial gifts of burden. So on that note, let's get right into it. So again, in this video, what I want to focus on is helping single parents increase income and reduce expenses by a mix of financial planning and career growth, whether that's in your current job or field or side jobs and so on. And most importantly, some cost-cutting strategies. So and this list is not, like a checklist or you go in any particular order. Take what may apply to you, or if you're going to share it with someone you think it may help, share the information, but there's no particular order. You have to go through and see what works for you. But I'm going to start off with remote and side hustles. So, for example, freelancing. Say you have skills in, writing, graphic design, or even virtual assistant. So that is something that you could possibly market. There are different apps for that. What comes to mind right off the top of my head is an app like Fiverr. You can, market your skills there and try and get clientele. And say you're maybe an artistic person, and again, you may not have lots of free time being a single parent. However, making homemade or handmade items that may serve two purposes. Number one, it may be a therapy. It could help reduce, tension, anxiety, and so on. And it's something that, I'm sure if you're doing this is something that you enjoy doing. So it will bring you joy. So you may want to sell, handmade products or products that you can do print on demand. There are, various sites that you could create things in its print and it's printed on demand, or you may have the capability or to do it, without using an additional app. But that may be something you want to look into to generate more income. Um, Also, tutoring. If you have an interest or you have a knack for that, for working with others and teaching a specific skill, say for example math or reading, that could possibly bring in additional income. Even for college students, it doesn't have to necessarily be like say elementary age school kids. It can be through college. Um, Something that you're maybe good. Maybe you're good in biology. Maybe you're good you know um, with writing, or a particular writing style, um, in like say for example APA style, MLA style. There are lots of people that are that may be looking for help in that. And maybe you don't want to, or you don't have in your schedule to do one-on-one or in person. YouTube right here is a good place for that. You can teach a lot of different things online, and people will watch your videos, and they will learn, and that is a way um, to possibly generate income also, after getting enough followers and views and so on. Also, on the list of remote and side hustles, there's driving for ride shares, or food delivery. um, Only thing I want to caution you about is look into your insurance first. See what the cost is to get the additional insurance, and I would encourage that, um, because you don't want to get in a situation where you are in an accident and it's during the time you are ride sharing or delivering food, and the insurance doesn't want to pay because you don't have additional insurance. So that is something you would want to look into with your insurance agent first. And again, as I mentioned, getting monetized on YouTube. So now we can also go, on a different level, and that's, like career advancement or education. So if you look into education, there are opportunities for, grants and scholarships, to upskill. You can, do short-term classes. You can, look into that. I would definitely advise you to start at I believe it's studentaid.gov. I will link some of these sites in the description. But yeah, you want to start, with completing your FAFSA, and I believe that is located at studentaid.gov. Um, if you are, in a position, you've been in a position for a while, you can, inquire about promotions, or negotiate a raise, and that could, add, to your income by inquiring about promotions. Who knows, there may be someone leaving, or they're wanting to promote within, or you may be due for a raise, and you could ask your boss, when can you schedule a review, and then that's when you would request a raise. I would make sure you're in good standing, if you're going to request a raise. Also, you can look into, higher paying remote or hybrid jobs, where it's, part you work from home, and, part, you maybe go in the office once or twice a week. And remote and work at home, just a quick, description of them both. Remote that means completely remote, meaning you can work from anywhere in the world as long as you have access to the internet and a computer or laptop or phone. And work from home, there are some companies that say, okay, you can work in these particular states, or it's work from home only in this state. So that is particularly the difference in those two. Remote is completely remote, and you can work from anywhere in the world. Um, excuse me. I am navigating this bronchitis, and it's been with me for a week now, and it's a challenge. Never had it, and it decided to knock at my door at the age of 53. Getting back on track, there are government and community programs. So it is tax season now. So you may want to apply for different tax credits that may include earned income tax credit or a child tax credit. Also, if you are in school and you've received grants and scholarships, there is a section on the return where it will ask, how much of the funds did you use to go for books and materials, and that, if you had to buy the materials directly from the school or elsewhere, and that could bring you some, income there. You can get credit for that. So you just want to, make sure you are, you maximize, those amounts, and make sure that, they're accurate. And as far as like housing, you can seek rental assistance if, you can seek and see if you are, eligible for different programs, especially if you're moving. There are some programs that offer, assistance with the first and last month rent. There are some that offer deposit assistance. So I would encourage you to check with your local city to see if they have any rental assistance, or the different housing programs, or housing authorities within your community, to see if there's any type of rental assistance. If you are subject to paying for childcare, same thing, look into your community resources to see if there are any childcare subsidies, or even food programs. Um, excuse me. So, utilizing different programs, that sometimes they're, come straight from farmers markets, sometimes they're donations and so on. But being able to utilize those food programs or food pantries, you could base your spending around what you receive from those programs. And that could, help cut your out-of-pocket costs, and you could, again, build your menus and menu planning based on what you receive. And, be sure when time presents itself, or you make a conscious effort to give back, when you're able to give back either a financial donation, a food donation, or time. Time is always needed. There's always a need for help at the different food banks and food pantries. Um, there are also programs like, for example, like AmeriCorps stipends, or, other nonprofit work opportunities. I would, look carefully, because many of those are federally funded or assisted. And right now we are dealing with different federal freezes on funds and so on. So just be mindful of that when you're looking into those um, types of programs, like the Peace Corps and AmeriCorps and things like that. So now we can move into reducing expenses. So things like housing and utilities. So first on my list is, a house hack. Meaning, like, if you have a spare bedroom, or if you are able to combine, maybe if you have multiple kids and maybe they could share a room and you can rent the additional room out. something along those lines, that could generate more income. Again, be mindful of what, if you are leasing, what your lease says about, what is it, when you basically sublease. I'm sorry, the words were right there. Be mindful of your lease when it comes to, what their rules are for subleasing. Same thing if you're considering apps like Airbnb. Many lease agreements will have something in there that says you can't be on those type of apps. So be mindful of that. As there are some landlords that subscribe to different companies that will notify them once their property becomes listed on, for example, an app like Airbnb. So you don't want to, be in violation of your lease and end up losing your place to stay. Um, but yeah, those are, some options, or maybe you can get permission if, need be, from the landlord or the property management, to have someone, rent a room. And as far as like renting a room, I would go with, referrals, people that and someone that, would refer the person to you. And if you are going to go with, maybe listen um, something on, Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, um, you want to maybe, consider having 4 references, maybe 2 that includes their history of paying rent, and then maybe 2 that are, personal or work um, references that can, attest to their, their personality, their, possible work ethic, and so on. And you want to be very transparent about some, things that are deal breakers for you, or things that you're willing to compromise on. Say, for example, I'm kind of a germ phobe, so if I were to share a place, it has to be someone that is, on top of their hygiene, on top of, when they enter the kitchen, washing their hands and so on. Um, so you can have maybe a smoother transaction, or not get someone in and find out that this is just not going to work. So those are different things that, keep in mind, and maybe make a short list of what different things that, are a must, some things you can compromise on, and some things that are just a deal breaker. Because after all, if you're considering sharing your, living space, you don't want to be uncomfortable in your own home. So, on that note, that's as far as like the house hack. As far as now getting into utilities, look to see if there are any programs for utility assistance. You may qualify for assistance, meaning they will help, either one time, or they will give you X amount of dollars, or send it directly to the utility company, um, on a monthly, basis, until the amount that they approved you for is exhausted. That could be a great resource, because that's less money, again, out of your pocket, and you're able to utilize those funds for other living expenses and so on. So now, another thing as far as under utilities, you want to maybe consider low cost internet plans, if you're not, or plans that are for low income families. If you don't need the highest speed, or and so on, and you could drop it down a tier or two, that could save you, quite a bit of money also. So moving into food and grocery savings. Now, you may want to consider buying in bulk. There are many things that you can buy in bulk, although you may not use them right away, but some things are able to be separated and frozen, and some things have a long shelf life. So it may be cheaper to buy in bulk, although maybe a small family may not, utilize a lot of the food right away. Just be mindful if you're buying fresh products, say such as dairy or fruits and vegetables that, may expire. But you may want to consider learning to can. You may want to consider blanching the items and then freezing or flash freezing. There are different options, in order for you to save that way. And don't forget about the store apps. There are usually each store has their own app. I usually, while standing in line, or if I'm have some downtime in between me going to the store or in between me ordering online, I will go in the apps and click all of the coupons, even though some items I may not use, but who knows, somebody in my family may go shopping and use my phone number and they can save on it. And that is another way to save big. Another thing, grow some of your herbs and vegetables at home. You can start, from your food scraps. That may look like, say you buy green onions, or you buy a whole brown onion or something of that sort. You can easily when you bring them in, put them in, a glass of water, in the windowsill. You'll start to see the roots grow. Same thing with garlic. I haven't had much success with cilantro, but there are ways to, grow from your food scraps, or even like a tomato. You can take a slice of it, put it on top of some dirt, water it. You'll start to see sprouts. Same thing with lemons. You can cut the top off, the part where the lemon is picked from the tree. Some people put fresh aloe vera. Some people put toothpaste on it. I don't know what it does, but it stimulates the growth process. These are different ways for you to be able to save and regrow from what you initially bought. And it's healthier. You know whether or not you're using pesticides. You know what type of soil you're using. And I have other videos on that because gardening is my therapy, and composting is a great way to create your own soil and be able to grow from your kitchen scraps again. But like I said, I have other videos out on that, or you can check out my blog, and I have more information on that too. So, for those of you that are subjected to childcare and school costs, you could swap childcare with other parents. That's a great way to save, especially if it's a parent that you're already friends with, the family. There's a way to save. Also, look into and utilize free or low-cost after-school programs. A program that I used when my children were younger was the Boys and Girls Club. That is one that, children were able to go on field trips. They can get help with homework. There are snacks and so on provided. So, look into those programs. Those are ways. And many schools now have a Boys and Girls program right there on the school campus, where the kids don't have to be transported to another facility. So that is another way to save and, have access to supervised care. Also, school supplies. There are different scholarships and different programs that will help with school supplies if, there's a need for that. So, feel free to look into that. You can check, with the school. You can do a search online. There are different family resource centers that do help with that. Moving on into transportation and auto expenses. Whenever possible, utilize the public transportation. There are many community programs that will offer free bus passes and so on. And that saves the wear and tear on, if you have a vehicle, that saves the wear and tear and less expense as far as repairs and upkeep and so on. And if you do utilize a vehicle, you could also, carpool. You can, offer to drive some days and, have another friend or coworker drive. That is another way to reduce expenses and share costs. Um, and most importantly, reduce unnecessary driving. For example, I usually try to, plan out my errands, and I try and, you know, schedule things in the same general area around the same general time. So you're not back and forth, zigzagging across town and burning gas. And I don't know the science, but they say making more right turns, you use less gas. I don't know the science behind it, but I have found it to be true. So, another thing that we, because we are creatures of habit, we tend to not check our auto insurance rates. So, you want to check those rates every year. Put it on your calendar. Maybe it's January or maybe it's July. You want to, once a year minimum, check your insurance rates because they do fluctuate, and different companies, their prices fluctuate. So you don't want to get so locked in with a company and find out that you're maybe paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars more than you need to. So, as far as like debt and financial planning, I'm not a financial planner. I'm not an advisor. I'm not giving any tax advice or anything. I'm just giving suggestions. So, if you're able to consolidate high interest debt or negotiate lower interest rates, by all means, do so. That will save you money that's leaving your budget, and you can use that money to pay down other debts. So you may want to, consider automating your savings. And you're thinking probably, Veronica, I don't have much. How am I going to automate savings? Start with small amounts, even if it's $5. Every check, $5, so you can create an emergency fund. You want to have an emergency fund, I would say at minimum 500, which we know 500 doesn't go a lot. It doesn't go a long way. It doesn't cover a lot. However, 500 opposed to zero is more helpful. So we have to start where we are. So you want to automate there's several apps, again, that you can automate your savings where it automatically comes out. What comes to the top of my mind is Credit Karma. That might be, an option for you. I think Cash App has something in their app where you can automate savings and so on. So that is definitely something you want to consider because we never know when an emergency may manifest. So, moving on to other savings, like I mentioned, the different store apps. My favorite app, when I, have to shop, I don't say have some things you want to buy, but my mindset as far as spending is, do I need it or do I want it? So Rakuten is my favorite because it's kind of brainless, and especially if you're using it on the computer, it'll automatically pop up when you're shopping at different places. Or if you're on your phone, you can click on your Rakuten app, and I will link that in the description, and that will be under my affiliate link. So I will get, if you sign up and you do purchase something, I think we'll both get some type of reward. So I will link to that. But it's really easy. I like it because now you can turn it in for gift cards, or I like to get the check in the mail just to see and have that paper that, shows me how much I saved. And it's always like, it's a nice surprise to get that check in the mail. And it seems to always come when I could really use it, and especially when it's not expected. So You definitely want to, use those type of cashback rewards. I would avoid using the credit cards if you don't have to, but there are many credit cards that offer cashback rewards. But, weigh that against what you're paying in interest, and if you were able to pay that debt off or close to paying it off at the end of the month, because you don't want to be paying interest on top of it, interest on something you bought 2 years ago. So yeah, definitely use those cashback rewards. And lastly, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up on, a budgeting plan for single parents. And, you know, a, a budget, a solid budget, even it doesn't have to be anything on a Excel sheet or anything of that nature. There's, some you can download. It could be as simple as a piece of paper. I would say, if you can commit to like the first 30 days, writing down every expense. It may seem daunting. It only takes a couple minutes. And then you get a visual to see what you are actually spending. And at the end of that 30 days, you can go back and reevaluate and see where you can cut the budget and be able to use those funds to pay for other household needs or pay down other debts. So what you're thinking, well, what would I put all on this budget? So first, you want to be able to calculate your monthly income. So if you're working, what your salary or wages are after taxes, if you receive any child support, alimony, if you're receiving any government assistance such as SNAP, WIC, rental assistance, you want to put that down on your budget. And any side hustle incomes, put that down. And all of this is going up under your income category. And as I mentioned, like if you have any tax credits, earned income credit, um, child tax credit, and just keep in mind, if your income varies, base your budget on the lowest expected monthly income so you can accurately better track and better plan. You can always, if the lowest amount, and then if you get more, then that just, provides more wiggle room within the budget. Next, you want to go ahead and break it down as far as your expenses. You want to track your expenses. So you will break those down into 3 categories, like fixed, essential expenses. And those expenses include like your rent or your mortgage, your utilities, your electricity, water, internet, phone. Those are, fixed essential expenses. Your insurance, if you have health or car or renters or homeowners insurance that you have to pay. Childcare, any loan payments that you have to pay. Those will be under your fixed essential expenses. Now, your next section will be your variable or flexible expenses. So those would include groceries, your gas, transportation, entertainment, clothing. Those will, vary because it's based on, what you need or what you're using at the time. So moving on, the last section will be your savings and debt repayment. So remember, I spoke about that emergency fund. We want to aim for at least, 500 to start, and definitely increase. So what will be listed under there is, like I said, the emergency fund, paying down debt such as credit cards, loans, retirement savings if possible. Those are the things that would be under savings and debt repayment. And step 3. So this, you will have to decide what may work for you. Again, these are suggestions. So some people may want to start off with the 50-30-20 rule and adjust as needed. So what that looks like is 50% of the income for essentials such as your rent, utilities, food, childcare. 30% for wants, dining out, entertainment, hobbies. 20% for savings and debt repayment. But for tighter budgets, you may want to consider adjusting it to the 70-20-10. And that's 70% your needs, 20% of your income goes for your savings and your debt, and 10% for wants. So you decide, what you think will work best in your situation. And then step 4, cut unnecessary expenses. So, groceries, you want a meal plan. So for me, what I like to do is I either have on my refrigerator or in my notes on my phone, as I run out of things or things are getting low, I put them on the list. That way I don't go in the store and be like, okay, what do I need? Or I don't, double or triple buy items. And then I will create a list of different meals I want to make. So then that helps guide me on which items, or ingredients I need to create those meals. And again, we talked about buying in bulk and utilizing discount stores. One of my go-tos, I like grocery outlet outside of buying in bulk. I will go to like Sam's Club, Costco. Some people have access to the military-based shopping. Those are different ways to buy in bulk and save too. Subscriptions. Cancel unused streaming services. Why pay for things that you aren't using? And especially if you haven't used it in a week or two, you might want to get rid of it and consider switching to free apps. Okay, yes, you may have to deal with commercials and so on. I look at it this way. You may have more time than you have money. And if it just takes you watching a few commercials or listening to a few commercials, why not? Why pay the extra money? Utilities, negotiate lower internet rates. Like I said, look into those lower tiers. Look for different specials that different companies are offering, and it might be worth switching. And as far as like your, bringing down your utility rates, I would, anything you're not using, say for example, you're done with that coffee pot, unplug it. And you might, oh, well, my clock. Well, most people have a clock on the stove, a clock on the microwave, a clock on the wall. You will live without that coffee pot being plugged up. Toaster, you're done with it, unplug it. And you will notice the difference in your utilities. They will reduce because you are unplugging things that you are no longer using. So again, that's, those are a couple ways for you to reduce your utility expense. And we did discuss debt interest, consolidating or negotiating lower rates on things that you are paying interest on, such as, especially if you know you have a high interest loan, see if there's a way for you to negotiate or refinance. Now moving into the wrap up, plan for emergencies and future goals. Again, we talked about that emergency fund. You can start it as little as $5, $10 a week per paycheck. Believe me, every bit counts. Look for side hustles to increase your income. Start off, brainstorm. What do I like to do? Oh, I like to garden. Oh, my excess, harvest from my garden, I could, post on Marketplace. Maybe people in my neighborhood want to buy that extra honey. They want to buy those extra heads of cabbage. That's, an example of, creating extra income from something you enjoy doing, and it can turn into a side hustle. And set small financial goals. It's important to know that, you're not always going to be where you are, but you have to plan to get to where you want to be. So with that being said, so for example, you may say, oh, I want to save $500 in 3 months. So will that $5 or $10 out of every paycheck get me there? Okay, maybe that won't get me there. So How many of those heads of cabbage or bottles of honey do I need to sell to get to that goal? Those are things to think about. And on that note, that brings me to the end. Like I said, we have to start where we are, and keep in mind, don't compare your situation to others. But it's okay to talk with others if they're doing something that, you know, or a goal that you're wanting to achieve. Feel free to ask questions. Hey, how did you do that? How do you go about that? It doesn't make sense to try and reinvent the wheel. Um, reach out, ask for help. And a lot of times we as single parents, we want to do everything on our own because we're so independent. And that's because a lot of times many of us have been forced to be independent. But the best thing you can do is ask for help. Continue to build your community. And on that note, remember, you have to start where you are. Write out your plans and the goals you want to achieve, and plot how you are going to get there. And keep in mind the different things that you can do now, with the different store coupons, the different apps, the coupons that you can clip, the different apps like Rakuten that gives you cash back from shopping that you're going to do anyway. So why not get the cash back? Also, there's another app, Fetch, and I will link that too. It's simple. You just you take your phone and take a picture of the receipts from the things you've purchased, or you can add your email addresses, and it will go and, like, say, if you have an account with, say, for example, Walmart or Amazon, you would give them authorization to go in and see what you bought, and they will give you points. Those points convert into gift cards at different retailers, or you can get like a Visa gift card and so on after you get so many points from just snapping a picture of your receipts or the e-receipts. So again, I will link to that. Just know that there is hope, there is ways, and sometimes it can seem daunting because it seems like you have more expenses coming in than income. And it, can sometimes bring an anxiety where you feel like, oh, I'm not doing enough. What else can I do? Remember to balance. Remember to take care of your self-care. Remember, it's okay to rest. It's okay to, try and turn off your brain from the situation that you're enduring at this time. Just breathe and know that you will get through this. And most of all, you will get through this by building your community. And I hope I will be a long part of your community. On that note, thank you so much. If you stayed with me to the end of the video, thank you so much for commenting. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for subscribing if you haven't done so. Thank you for liking. By liking and subscribing and commenting, that tells me that, the different things you would like to know more about, or if you have questions about a certain topic, or you would like for me to make a video in more depth on something. And by subscribing, that lets you know when I upload a video. So on that note, be blessed, and remember, there is life beyond trauma. You're not in this alone, and you will get through this by continuing to build your community and focus on your self-care. If you are pouring from an empty cup, how long is that going to last? How long will you last? So you have to remember to fill your cup first, just like on the airplane. Air mask goes on you first, then on the next person that you're trying to save. All right. Thank you again for being with me. Be blessed. Bye now.